All right, Coach, all you, man. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Well, first off, I'll just start by I want to just genuinely thank everybody in the room for having me. I want to thank you guys for what you do. Some of the biggest impacts ever made in my life were high school coaches. Okay, my seventh grade basketball coach also was one, but not just my head high school football coach, but also my seventh grade. My freshman year, our offensive and defensive line coach had one of the biggest impacts in my life, and so thank you guys for what you do. And I know you guys got good football up there. I've had a chance to work with Derek Snell here, and then Coach Brandon Peely at USC in the past, and I know you guys do big things, and I appreciate your time and having me. So with that, I'm gonna share my screen here. All right, you guys will just have to let me know if you're getting. Are you guys getting Montana State pass rush screen right now? Okay. Okay, so let me see here if I can do this. I want to try to switch the view a little bit here so I can see you guys or see something here. Okay, there we go. All right, good to go still, guys? Okay. So talking about pass rush and the way we coach it here at Montana State, it is a little bit different than a lot of people treat pass rush. We've coached it a different way. I specifically, different stops I've been at, have coached it a little bit of a different way. But it's really panned out. This year we were able to lead the country in sacks. And that's the third school that I've been at that I've been able to say that at least one year. And so it's definitely different way to approach pass rush, but we found a lot of success approaching it this way. And so I'm just going to kind of go kind of through how we teach it and then open it up for questions so we can kind of talk a little bit of ball with each other. So starting off, we treat pass rush, we treat it as a landmark rush, okay? And that's kind of how we start. So everything for us starts off of a landmark, and then we're basically going to try to open up everything based off of that landmark. So it's essential to have great get off and pass rush. We work extremely hard on that. We play a team. We play Portland State this year. The first thing on their offensive line to move was the tackle's right knee, the right tackle's right knee, as he was getting ready to get off. And like we'll find whatever it is every week and try to trigger off of that, because getting and beating these guys off the ball is what really helps you with the great landmark rush. We're attacking that landmark. We're trying to basically put the O lineman. We're trying to beat the O lineman to the spot. And if there's a chance for an O lineman to keep up with us running backwards, then we feel like we've put him in a bad spot to be able to take us on. I got a buddy who's a NFL offensive line coach, and he always tells me, "Hey, just remember they can't be athletic and strong at the same time. They got to do one or the other." So we're trying to force that offensive lineman to move his feet. Okay, we're trying to get to that hand battle as fast as possible. And that's one thing that we teach here that is a little bit different than a lot of people. You'll see pass rushers naturally kind of put air in their rush to set up this beautiful hand battle and throw this, great move. And as you'll see when we go through this process, we're not basing what we're doing off of just a win or just a hand battle. We're basing it off of the entire holistic way that we rush the passer. So basically what we want to do is we want to get this guy moving, and then we want to make a decision based off of his pass set. So we treat pass rush a lot more like block rec than we do this sexy, cute pass rush move deal. We're trying to basically treat pass rush as an act of violence, okay? We're going to take what the offensive lineman gives us. All right, and that's kind of the approach there I'm talking about with the landmark rush. So our landmark rush for us, we're trying to get to 4 yards behind that outside foot of the offensive tackle. Inside, it's more of like a 2.5 yard landmark. Okay. And inside it is because the hand battle is going to happen so much faster. You're going to be on top of him so much faster. There's so many more quick sets inside. And so it's more of a 2 yard landmark, which is going to take you to being able to read what that offensive lineman's giving you, put him in a position where he's not as strong to take on whatever it is you're throwing. And so outside, the whole thought process with this 4 yard landmark is we want to simply beat this man to this spot. And I will say the number one thing when you start coaching landmark rush, or that I've noticed in my time coaching high school kids, coaching college kids, and even talking with pro football players and coaching some of those guys, is I think the natural reaction when you really start landmark rushing is you start going, wow, the hand battle is happening really quick. The offensive lineman is on top of me really quick. And that's okay. We're encouraging that hand battle to happen as fast as we can. We want to get that thing over with. And so we can either win. And if we've won, then we're on a great path and our clock is at a great spot to still get to the quarterback in that 2.9 second window that we're aiming for. The other thing is if we lose the hand battle, then we want to put ourselves in a position to convert the rush. And you'll hear me talk about convert the rush. This is a part where I think we're different than a lot of people. We want to convert the rush instead of trying to win late or instead of trying to win second and third moves, because we feel like if you convert the rush off of a loss, you can still get a sack. You can still come up, you can still work together. And really, ultimately, hunting as a pack is how you really, in my opinion, and the way we've done it here, is hunting as a pack is how you really get the quarterback on the ground at a consistent basis, more so than winning a hand battle. Adrian Hutchinson, a couple of years ago, he finished number 2 in the Heisman race, which is unbelievable for a D lineman. And he was at 24% win ratio on his hand battle. So we're not going to make it all about the win or this great move. We're going to make it about the way we rush and the way we attack. Okay. So here's what I'll tell you about the landmark. So as I'm working as hard as I can to get to this landmark, and you look up and you're out in front of this offensive lineman, you've moved faster than him, you've got off faster, whatever it is, and you're out in front. When you get to that landmark, if you're out in front of him in any way, shape, or form, you feel like you can throw your home run move, the move that you had planned to throw against whatever it is you throw best, or whatever it is you felt like works best against that offensive lineman. If you're out in front, we want you to go ahead and throw that home run win. And you'll hear me talk about this constantly. We really believe that the way you finish, and we call it elite finish here. The way you finish your rush will be more so. Basically, it'll carry over more to how many sacks you get versus the hand move itself. So if we throw that move, we throw that home run move, and we land it, which when we say land, it means we got to the upfield shoulder of that offensive tackle. Once you're at that upfield shoulder, you've won. It's just a matter of if you're finishing elite or not now. So when we finish every single rush, no matter what you throw, with a rip and then a drive hand. We're going to try to put that drive hand on the ball. We say the rip clears you, the drive steers you. Okay. And so what that is that's, we always want that hand to go to the ball. You'll see when you start coaching originally, the hand will go too high, which brings your pad level up, which is not what we're trying to get accomplished. But the rip and the drive to finish every rush is extremely important. Now, oh, Lord have mercy. There we go. Okay, good. So we're working as hard and as fast as we can, get back to that landmark. Offensive lineman's got a great set going. He's right in the middle of that landmark. When you get there, you know that if you work that home run move now, you're going to run past the quarterback into that no-go zone. If you try to counter back inside right now, he's going to seal you off and you're going to lose contain. So when we get back there and we're moving as fast as a man can, and we feel like if he's moved fast enough to keep up with us, all right, then he's probably not in a great position to take on our power move, okay? And when he's right in the middle of us, we know we've got to go to power. And no matter what your power is, some is speed to power. Some guys are long arm. I know the top end rushers are typically long arm guys, especially like the NFL level or the elite college level. And but even if it's just speed to power and you're 2-1 to a none eventually, we want to make sure that when we work that power move, we're putting ourselves in a spot okay, where we can get that thing all the way to one and we can escape both sides of the offensive lineman because he doesn't know where the quarterback's going to go. But as long as we get separation, we can clearly see where he's going to go and we can escape off of both sides. And I'll be honest with you guys. Every year, we watch like whoever's the best NFL sacker. We watch the top 10 typically. And when you watch our sacks here, you'll see more sacks come out of this right here of us just working, getting this guy in a bad spot, working a power move, and then being able to escape both sides of him and get the quarterback on the ground. It's more so than the sexy moves or the moves that we all watch on Instagram or wherever you watch your stuff at. Okay, now, same thought process. If this guy is working his ass off to get over the top of you, and he is setting really, really hard or oversetting, or in some cases, even a major jump set. What we want to do when we get to that landmark and he's out in front of us is now we want a counter move. So whatever move it was that you had, in your mind that you were going to throw and you're working as hard as you can at landmark rush, he's out in front of you. You're going from now it's not chop rip to maybe now it's long arm and rip past or whatever your best counter is. Some guys, we have a guy here who's really good at chopping it, making him think we're throwing the home run move, getting him to commit even further, and then spinning back inside. One thing I will tell you guys, we teach spin as a counter here. We don't teach it as a move. We teach it as a counter, and what happens is that way we don't get guys spinning all the time. We really don't love a spin because we lose eyes of the quarterback, and then once we spin, we got to re-find him, and typically – unless it's a great spin, you're typically at a disadvantage with the offensive lineman. He catches back up in most cases when you throw a spin. So we try to teach it as a counter, not as a move. Okay, so that's kind of our landmark rush theory, just to start out with how we start everything. Okay, now one thing I have learned is, and this came really from Dwight Freeney, one of the greatest landmark rushers and now Hall of Fame guys. My first couple of years of coaching, I got a chance to run into him, and he basically said, "Hey, look, I'm at that landmark. I'm at that landmark. I'm at that landmark. I'm at that landmark. All of a sudden they overcommit, and then I'm going to spin back inside. That's when I know I've got him." And then you go back to that. Anytime you got a guy moving that hard to try to keep up with a fast, athletic player, now all of a sudden you throw him a 2-yard landmark, and he's trying to get out of there, and he sees you coming at that 2-yard landmark, and it locks him up. So he settles back down and tries to prepare for contact. Anytime you're going to do a 2-yard landmark, which is a great changeup, like a 1 in every 6 or 7 rush changeup, when you throw that 2-yard landmark, one of the guys that's great at is Joey Bosa, is just great at this. When you throw that 2-yard landmark, now I'm not going to work counter. I'm not going to work power. It's too early in the rush to do either one of those things. So now I'm throwing my home run, whether that's double hand swipe, whatever it is for each player, it's different. But I'm throwing that home run, and it's going to be an outbreaking move. I know that I'm winning high and outside. So this is a great changeup when you're working landmark rush, landmark rush, landmark rush. You're putting a guy in a tough spot all game. So I'm just going to start now. I'm going to kind of rewind a little bit. I've kind of told you how we rush the quarterback, the landmark theory, and then I'm going to kind of talk to you about so we're in the 4 down front, and I know most Alaska schools are, just from doing a little bit of research. A lot of you guys are 4 down teams. We rush just out of our normal pass rush rules, out of over front. This is kind of how we coach it. So that defensive end, starting from left to right, I'll start with the defensive end. The defensive end, his job as a 6 technique is to strike that tight end. Okay, that's going to be his pressure key and his visual key. As soon as that tight end starts working outside of our frame, outside, our eyes now, he'll still stay our pressure key, but our visual key now becomes that offensive tackle. We see a hi-hat set, okay, and now we want to start that landmark process, and you can see that landmark going right there 4 yards behind his outside foot, okay? So we want to start that process, okay? Inside is a 3 technique. We're coming out of our hands and hips. We're striking that man. We're trying to own that gap. All of a sudden we realize, okay, it's a hi-hat set. We tell that guy, win high now. Win high now simply means listen, it's pass rush. We got you coming out of your stance hard as heck. Now we want you to be as dynamic and as hard and as fast as you can up the field. And if that means you get pushed past the quarterback just a little bit, We're going to live with that because we really need you moving it. And when you do and you rush that really, really hard rush, if you do get past the quarterback a little bit, now you just got to convert that rush back. You got to put that guy back into the quarterback. And the same thought process we talked about before on our speed to power moves, be in a position where you can come off both sides and get the guy on the ground when he makes his move. Okay. Now, if you get a three technique who's unbelievable at win high now, has done a great job. He's got a nice little set going. He's thrown his move and he's upfield. And now this tight end, it took a little bit of time to negotiate the tight end from the defensive end. Okay. We tell those guys, okay, now you look up and that three technique, that tackle's out in front of you. We want you to go ahead. And if he's in front of you, just know that he's going to stay high and you're going to work in. Okay. So we call that a natural. The biggest thing I'll tell you, and the first time I ever did this was University of Tennessee, 2010. And our kids just for like a month almost, 2 weeks almost, they just couldn't get out of their minds that this was not a text or was not just because there's a tight end in the game supposed to be a text. This is really, we want to really use the word natural because we want to make sure these guys understand it has to happen naturally. And we'll tell the tackle the same thing. Hey man, I'm going to win that high now. I'm working that move and I look up and that defensive end is out in front of me. I got to stop the win high now. I got to convert the rush or I got to counter the rush and get back into my rush lane. Okay. So that's the end and tackle side and over. The nose side and the rush side, we've kind of changed this over the years. This used to be naturally what we used to do all the time was we would say the rush has a two-way go all the time. And the nose, who's tabling the guard, is just going to cover him up and make him right. What we found over the years is we wasted the nose's rush a ton, all right? And we got a really good pass rusher at nose a lot of times, and we're just wasting him to take care of and babysit the rush's rush. Now, that being said, we also found that the rush, okay, starts kind of like slowly not working that landmark, not trying to burn down a landmark, like he was before. Now he's trying to set it up, see what's available, and then we get really a weaker rush out of him. And we're not really putting that offensive lineman in a tough spot. So what we've done over the years is we've actually kind of switched this to where now I watched this through the game. Coach Bapp, who's also coaches defensive line here, and he's up in the press box. He'll watch it, and then the players will tell me, "Hey, coach, look, the guy is oversetting me. He's trying to get going on my speed." But it's not quite at the spot where I feel like I can counter. So then what we'll do is we'll make a cover me from the sideline. That's always between the nose and the rush. I know I got N there, but it's the nose and the rush. Okay. We make that cover me. We still want a landmark rush. We still want a guy burning down that 4-yard landmark. And then it's exactly what we thought it was going to be. The offensive tackle is kind of oversetting. We'll go ahead and take that thing inside. And when we do call cover me, now we've told this nose now, listen, now we actually want you to truly table the guard, which means now I want to work to his outside shoulder. And I just want to make sure if that guy goes inside that I can work out to contain. If he doesn't, then I'm going to work back into my rush lane, which a lot of times is going to end up putting that guy in more of a converted rush because it's late in the rush and we're probably not going to get a win that late. So, you look at the first clip, I put table to guard. The second one's table to guard. The first one, nowadays, the way we coach it, we've really sped up that noses rush because if you really work on it and you key it, we feel like that nose can really beat that center's butt and then also can get a great hump by when he's away from the slide side. And I'll show you what I mean moving on right now. And this is starting with the nose. We call this hump out. And this is a big reason why I kind of took out the process of just giving that guy always a two-way go. We didn't want to cut this out for no reason. Okay. You can see this nose right here. I'll just kind of highlight him. You can see this nose right here and you can watch him coming out of his hands and hips. It's just over pass rush. He sees that hand of that center. He knows he's away from the slide side. He knows that guard's got to get his butt down to get to him. And he's just going to hump and pass. That's a 1.1 second sack against an NFL football player. And Antoine ended up being an NFL guy himself, but was a kind of a sawed-off, short, chubby kid at this point early in his career. But you can see him, hands and hips. I read that key. I see that hand pop up. I know that the slide side's away. I know that guard's got to fly down to get down to me. And I use his momentum and hump and by, and I'm right back there. And so we basically never wanted to take the hump out away. And so it's something we worked at practice. We spent a lot of time working this and making sure that guys could get that. What we figured is it really opens up a nice element to over pass rush rules. And then what we do is we take care of the oversets with us on the sideline making the cover me call. Here's one, Chase Benson, a kid we had a couple years ago. I'd like him to be just a little bit tighter and a little quicker to the rip. I think he's trying to stay off the quarterback, and that's probably part of it. But there's another great hump out of over pass rush rules. And here's another, I think, a view of the same clip, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So, like I said, just finishing that rush with a rip and a drive. No matter what move we throw, we want to throw a rip and a drive to finish it. Okay. So that's the hump out, and that's a big part of our rush. Okay, now here's a win high now. And this win high now, I just want to tell you, you look at it and you go, okay, coach, I don't know that he's really working as hard as he can to a 2.5 yard landmark, but he really is. He's not really stepping out. He's just trying to clear with that inside foot. And we're going to give him the ability to go ahead and win a little bit high, take a risk, take a gamble, get moving. And even if that puts you past a little bit, we just know we got to rip and drive back, or we got to convert the offensive guard back. We're going to let you win high. Let you win high now. And the fact of the matter is, if we get this going, it speeds up our rush, lets our kids be more explosive, lets these rushers have more of an attacking mentality. That's a great one right there by Jay Tufele right there. Plays for the Bengals right now and is one of my all-time favorite guys. You can see I just wish he's got a great rip there. I wish he'd bring the drive. But we want to promote this win high now mentality. We know that the defensive end, it actually makes his job easier. Okay, makes his job easier. Okay, on clearing up with the natural. That natural can be one of the fastest sacks you'll have at defensive end if your three technique's working for you the right way. So that same win high now policy, okay, we know that the three technique ultimately still always has a two-way go. He's the guy with the two-way go, but we want everything to come off of. We want everything to come off of that win high now policy. So we're trying to win high now. We get that guard to take another step. We get him to open his hips all the way to the sideline. We know now win high now is probably off the table. I probably need to turn this thing into a counter where I take the inside move. So just that mentality, again, of putting that offensive lineman in a tough spot and then taking advantage of him. Okay, and Big Nick does this as good as anybody here. A kid we had it at USC, a really special player. So ultimately knowing and telling that three technique, look, you have a two-way go, but we want everything to work off the win high now. It's just the same exact thought process, guys, as the landmark rush. And here's Stanley. Okay, Stanley, who plays for him still this past year. Stanley's working that 3 yard or that 2.5, 3 yard landmark. Man is right in the middle of him. So it's not going to be a win high now. We're going to go power move. And when we go power move, that's what we're looking for. 2 to 1 to none to escape to where the quarterback's gone. And I know Stanley, guys, is a one hell of a football player, but I mean, Stanley came with his limitations too. I mean, Stanley, this is not a guy who's overly long, and with some of the gifts that everybody has. But this is just a guy who just figured this out really, really well and was able to do it at a very high level. So that's kind of our over pass rush rules working and how we drill it and how it kind of works together. Okay. Now I want to show you when we get into third down and long, we move to what we call a green front here. Okay. So our whole deal, and Coach Ogeron, a man that is mentor to me, he started this whole, Rod Marinelli was a mentor to him. But Coach O started me down this path of, hey, my job is to make sure you get a one-on-one. Your job is to make sure you win the one-on-one. And how I do that is I study the film. I understand their protections. And then we can call out their protections with our D line by the end of the day. So what we do is we tell one of our two interior rushers, you've got to know the protection. So like for this week that I've got drawn up right here, we knew that the back was always going to be to the man's side. So the D lineman down there is just going to make a lucky call. That means slide is to the left. And that means that to the right here, okay, we've got the one-on-one side. So if we have a game called or anything called, we're going to work it right to this side. We know to get a one-on-one, we have to rush outside. We can't work back into the guard. And we know when you to the one-on-one side, and we've called out the one-on-one side, we're actually going to put you on a jab lay path. And the reason why we want to sell that guy the win high now, and then we want to take advantage of working an interior move. And the reason why, guys, is because if he keeps working outside and this man has any success, we've opened up the middle of the pass rush lanes. So what we want to do, we want to balance out our pass rush by telling the guy to the man side, you're going to work a jab lay, okay? This defensive end here to the other side is obviously going to work an outside move. He's got the one-on-one. So I'll kind of show you once we've recognized that pass rush, and let's say we call Tex. And one thing I hated when I played was Tex was always to the 3 technique. X was always to the nose, whatever. And our coach just called them. And the thing that killed me was we'd call them right into the slide side all the time, and they'd have 3 guys to answer for 2 guys. And so, one thing we take a lot of pride in, and Coach Baptiste, our defensive tackles coach here, really, really, really as good as I've ever seen. He really diagnoses those protections and gets those things right. And we want to tell these kids exactly where the one-on-one is. So we've got 4 guys rushing against 4 one-on-ones. So if we call a Tex, our kids are going to make the lucky call here. And then they know that means the Tex, okay, is to the right side. And I'll take you through some of these games and how we coach them here in a little bit. So same thing here. I'll go to the next slide here. Here's an X, okay? And we still do it from that green front. We've made the lucky call. We've identified the protection. We know we've got 4 one-on-ones, and we know the X is going to be to the side of the man side. Now, that being said, I will tell you guys this. We get into games, we get into situations where we're sitting there watching it, and we say, look, it's not exactly how we thought it was. We really don't have a beat. Sometimes the back is sliding across. We're not getting the man side like we always thought. And then that's when we call double games. We go to double games. So everything will become, instead of X, we'll just go double X. Okay. And we'll go double X and just make sure that we're going to get that man side on one side and solidify it. We know that 3/2 is going to happen on one side. And that guy that's working in, we tell him you're going to have a physical rush. It's going to be more of a converted rush. You just got to get yourself in a position where you can balance out the rush for us and get this guy on the ground eventually. It's not sexy. It's not a great pass rush move, but we find time and time again that just teaching it the right way and having the guy, instead of trying to win late, just go ahead and convert a rush, just go ahead and take the loss on the hand battle and put yourself in a position to get the guy on the ground, ends up in a sack a lot for us, okay? So I'll kind of take you through. Okay, here's X, and I know I've got some old clips on here, guys. Bear with me on this. So on these X's, we want to just tell this guy, this defensive end, we're flying down in there right now, and you can see we've got the inside foot up, which if he was in the 3-point stance would be inside hand down, and we're going to go immediately. We want to go as fast as a man possibly can, and we're telling him we want to try to aim for that hip. If you aim at the hip, if you can get your hand, we tell our guys, if you can get your hand to that hip, you've secured a 2-on-1. Because when you push somebody on the hip, and if you were to stand up and push the man next to you in the room on the hip, you're going to move that man. If you push him on the shoulder, you're going to bend that man. Okay, and anytime you hit them in the shoulder, they can catch back up. Where if you hit them on the hip, we feel like they cannot catch back up on the rush. So we teach pin the hip, and then what we tell the guy inside, you are now going to find that shoulder. And here's Brandon Peely, number 91, one of your guys' own. Brandon Peely getting the guy, we call it rodeo clowning him down inside, chilling him that chop, showing him that he's got something coming. Okay, and but I love about Peely is he's got his right foot up. Okay, because if he takes one more step with his left foot, he's going to lock his hips off. He's not going to be able to get back out. So we tell him we want to take 2 steps. They're quick steps, and we want to make sure that upfield, that foot is up. Okay, and Brandon's doing a great job of he's stepping a little long, but he's making sure he doesn't lock himself off. Now, Peely, just find that shoulder so we don't get loose, so you're nice and tight. And you can see Peely, who's kind of going a little bit wide, gives this tackle ultimately a chance to catch back up and get back in front of him. Now, Peely probably going to kill somebody if he rolls 340 pounds or whatever, 330 pounds through a guy's legs. But we're hoping that Peely's going to be able to almost grab that shoulder right there. We tell him, if you're trying to find that shoulder, and you'll watch their head sometimes, it'll bend all the way around, And if you can grab that shoulder, it's over. There's not a man in the world that can catch back up if you've got that shoulder. There's not anybody on our team, and I'm an old fat man. There's not anybody on our team. If I grab him by the shoulder, I can't get past him. So Peely's just a little bit loose, but this was a good game, mostly because Giuliano, number 41 right there, is doing a great job of being aggressive and getting down in there. I wish his hands were just a little bit lower. Okay, and I'm going to show you another one. This is, guys, this is like my Hall of Fame. I show this to my kids all the time, okay? And this is Khalil Mack. A lot of us don't coach Khalil Mack. I certainly don't coach Khalil Mack here at Montana State. But the point is this really goes through with all your guys. Watch how hard my man just dives down in there. He's trying so hard to get to the hip. He moves the man, and he just fights through. You can see the guy inside of him. You can see him looking for the shoulder, tries to grab it, doesn't get it. But just the way my man works down in here and just buries that hip down in there. It's just hard to catch up with if you do a good job selling that guard down in there. All right. And one thing I will tell you on this one here is, 91. Okay. It's all right. We didn't get there, but let's just make sure we get ourselves in a converted spot to where we can make both sides of that thing right. So Tex, okay, kind of the same thing a little bit. We tell the three technique now, the guy who's basically a win high now guy, we're telling him we're trying to pin the hip of the tackle, okay? We're trying to pin the hip of the tackle. If you can get both hands on that man's hip, okay, you're going to pin that hip and you're going to ricochet. But as soon as you got both hips, we have secured a 2-on-1. We are past. They've got one guy blocking two guys now. So we fight like crazy to get to this hip. Now, what I will say, if you watch Christian Rector out here on the edge, you can kind of tell right now. He takes that step. His body language totally switches. He's standing up. He's got his chest, his arms at his side. This tackle knows I'm no longer attacking you. Okay, so now he's able to turn his focus back to the three technique, and they're going to have a better chance to pass this off. I would just say the guard probably didn't get it passed off quick enough. Okay, so this one I would tell you is, and we put good clips on here and bad clips off here just so we have stuff to coach off of. The one thing I love about Stanley here, who's trying to get to this hip, he kind of gets stuck in no man's land. He kind of, coach, I'm kind of got both guys on me. I'm kind of pinned inside the tackle. I know my job ultimately is to get outside of him, but we would never want Stanley to try to run outside of that. Now it opens up too much room for the quarterback to work. So what we tell Stanley now, go ahead and take that tackle one more, which means just take him, keep knocking him vertical until you have leverage on the quarterback and you can come off and then you can work and keep that quarterback in the pocket. So we call this technique just taking it one more instead of trying to just jump outside, which is going to widen him too much. So I'll show you. You can just tell. So like what we like to tell our offensive or our defensive end, we want to show that offensive tackle, hey, look, you're getting that same pass rush. You're getting that same landmark. You're getting that same hand chop. And right when I'm going to chop that hand, right when he's getting ready to throw his punch, that tackle should be hitting his hip and knocking him off into oblivion. But you got to do a great job for this to ever work. The defensive end has to do a great job with the sell. Now, we tell the three technique, okay, never would I chase out an overset. Once you're going to pin that hip and you see that tackle on an overset, we tell the defensive end and the three technique, sell is over. Let's get working inside. So you go back to a thought process of the win high now on the guard, and defensive end, get out of it right now. We've already got the 2-on-1 secured. Get working inside. Another one, and here's a great one by Peely. Peely kind of looks up. He feels like that guy's working out. Peely goes and works the move, realizes, okay, I'm kind of in that spot. Okay, I worked the move, but I really didn't create the separation. Now I need to go ahead and get to that hip. I need to take it one more. And you can see Peely kind of gets in that same spot, and look at him, just take the guy one more to his leverage, and then he escapes. And that's what really ends up winning the rush. So this is another broken rush. It wasn't perfect, and we just ended up making it right. You can see Giuliano takes it and does a really good job selling it. That offensive tackle is buying it all the way across. Once Giuliano gets working, you can see he realizes, hey, this guy's in a decent spot. I better start out with a convert, and I can escape once I've got leverage. All right, and if you don't ever have leverage and a guy's right behind you, we'll just work him that convert. We'll work him all the way into the quarterback's lap. So another Alaska product right there. doing a great job on a one more, taking him all the way. And now you see here, I mean, you can see the overset by 92, okay, or by 72 and 90 doing a really good job of working the one-on-one. He never has to chase it. Same thing with the defensive end is going to sell a rush. Goes, wait, he's working way too far. I got to get moving, and time's up. So this is a really good one of don't chase the hip, and turns into just two guys rushing as fast as we can. We've secured the 2-on-1. Basically, they did it for us. Okay, here's another one. If I remember, yep, the right side of your screen as you look at it here. Same thing, doing a great job of selling that rush, staying in there. I would say this would be a prime suspect for if 90 was able to pin the hip on this. But what I'll tell you is sometimes when you throw that move and you got a short set, okay, and if he gets enough of you, what we tell our guys, we call it AD after Aaron Donald, who's the best. We watch every week. We watch film of these pro guys. Aaron Donald's the best, so we call it the AD of where you're ripping to finish a move, and the guy's got a little bit of movement on you. And as you get close to that guy outside you, we want to just pin. Just want to use that that hand over here to stiff arm his hip and to pin him, so we can continue to rip and we can continue to stay on our leverage. This is a good look at that right here. It's a great text. Excuse me, guys. Sorry. So getting back to that green rush. Sorry about that cheerleader popping up there, guys, and distracting us all from doing good work here. All right. So getting back to that green rush, if we just don't call a game and we just call go, this is our base thing. We'll call it go. These guys come out. So like, let's say this is empty. It's 3-by-1 as we look at it here. We know that they're going to slide. Most teams will slide to the field, which we call scat protection. If they slide to the boundary, we call it husky. Sometimes it's a 3-by-1. Sometimes it's to the 3-man side. Sometimes it's to the 2-man side. So we've identified the protection here. We've called the lucky. All right, and then that means now if we've just called straight go, everybody's rushing their one-on-one, and our jab-o-lay guy right here will be one-on-one with this guard, and we want him to work an interior move to balance out our rush so the middle of that field is not wide open. Okay, so here goes our jab-o-lay. You can see 65 tries to come back in. Aaron Donald does a good job at what we call the AD. Normally he rips a little bit better on the guard on this, but there's your jab-o-lay move working for you, and knowing that the guy's on an island. And we see it the same way. We've got a guy here that we feels like a horrible matchup for guards. It's a little bit of a shorter end for us, and we put him inside on third down. We just feel like the guards just can't get to him, and it looks a lot like that right there for us. I'll flip to this next jab-o-lay, and it's again on the right side of your screen. You can see this right now. So as we go for this jab-o-lay, guys, there's a lot of times when teams know, okay, here comes the jab-o-lay. Here's what we've seen on film. This is a straight rush, and they catch up. But what we have now is we have a balanced out rush. We have our rush lanes accounted for. We got guys balanced out. And what you can see is him go right now and say, okay, the jab-o-lay is not going to hit without me getting washed across my rush lane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this rush. And you can see him right now. I'm winning. Nope, I'm converting. Convert the rush all the way back to a 2-to-1 to none and get yourself in a position where you can come off of both sides and get your hand on the ball, get your hand on the man. And that's what we're trying to get accomplished there. Okay, so I want to get back to one thing that we talked about a little bit earlier here, the rip and the drive. So we want to finish every pass rush with a rip and a drive. So if you watch the left side of your screen here, okay, on this one, it's just a simple chop rip. But once we get to that shoulder, we're home. We can win the rush now as long as we're willing to finish elite. You can watch him. Throws a great rip all the way. The rip's from the shoulder. And you can see that drive is just aimed at that ball the whole time. So the rip is one that clears us. The drive is the one that steers us, puts us right on the ball. That's as important as anything we do is coaching that rip and drive. And guys, I'll tell you, every year we watch TJ Watt, have 19, 20 sacks or whatever it is. And we'll watch him. And so many of his sacks come off of just being an elite finisher. The move wasn't necessarily unbelievable. He finishes it with an elite thing, or he converts his rush and gets himself in a position to work both sides of the offensive lineman. And that's where we're trying to get our guys more focused on, is finishing and converting rushes than we are winning. Okay, now so you watch this one over here, and this is back to one of the all-time greats here, Khalil Mack. just reduces the shoulder, but knows I've got to get to my rip now, and I got to put that drive right on the football. And that drive is what causes a lot of fumbles, a lot of turnovers. But guys, as much as anything, that drive is what helps you when that offensive lineman says, "Oh crap, you got me," and he starts the pushing process. He starts trying to push you past. He tries that last ditch effort to get you past the quarterback this much. That rip and that drive is what's going to clear you back around and keep you from getting pushed by a sack that far. We had a kid at USC, Devon Kennard, who the year before his senior year, he had missed probably 8-10 sacks by this much, and he became a great rip and drive guy and ended up going on to like a 10-year NFL career. One of my favorite players I've ever been associated with. So we teach this rip and drive concept, guys. No matter what move you throw, even on a power move, you're still finishing it with a rip and a drive. Okay, so a couple things. I've got the questions up here. I want to kind of be able to talk through. Last year when I was with you guys, and I didn't do a good enough job getting to questions because I talked too much, want to hear myself talk. And this year, I want to make sure that we answer every question that you guys could possibly have. And then here's my contact information. I want everybody in the room to feel like you guys can use me as a resource anytime you guys need. Okay. So I'm going to now correct me if I'm wrong. I want to unshare my screen, correct? Okay. So now I've just go ahead and open it up to any questions. I know one that comes up for us a lot is, hey, coach, we face athletic quarterbacks. How do you guys rush athletic quarterbacks? Is there anything like that that's on anybody's mind?
Definitely gonna have a couple on this phone. So, if you've got any, how you alter it, how you change it.
Let me try to turn this up a little bit here. I'm missing you a little bit here. Could you try to belt that out one more time? I couldn't quite hear it.
So if you have an athletic quarterback you're facing, how do you change it, or is there something you key on versus what you were showing?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. Well, our big thing here is we kind of use the NFL model. So we get into 2-3 techniques, right, to rush the passer, either two wide fives, or if there is a tight end, a 9 technique. What we want to do is we want to make this thing as wide as we possibly can. Those 3 techniques almost in 4 eyes. And we want to try to get this thing wide. And what we'll do is I'll call against a really athletic kid, I'll call double go. And what we want to do is, and I'll kind of put this towards the board. Can you guys see that board there?
Yep.
Just tell me if you can't see this, but what we'll do, we'll call double go. And what we want to do is we want to present to this quarterback, okay, guys working landmarks, this thing working wide, him feeling like here's his space where he can go be an athlete. Okay, can you guys all see that from there?
There it is.
Okay. And then so what we're going to tell these guys is when he feels like that, okay, now we're going to work a jab lay and take it away from him, work a jab lay, and we're going to tell these guys err on the side of, not to only do it, but err on the side of speed to power. Speed to power. We want to try to make this guy feel like he can step up in there and use that as kind of his space to be an athlete. And then we're going to try to crash it down around him. So that would be what I would say. That would be our number one call that we would make, a call from the sideline to try to help us contain a quarterback. And we met with some NFL D-line coaches and kind of picked their brains and kind of came up with, hey, how the heck do you get Lamar on the ground? How do you do this? And the answer is sometimes you can't, but this is one of the things that we like to do to try to cut that off. I would say the biggest thing, you got to tell your D-line on a week where, hey, their quarterback, the way they could beat us is their quarterback extended plays. You got to tell your D-lineman, listen, we are trying to win really quick, and we are not going to ever win late. We're going to convert everything late. So we want to try to win and get this guy get upfield, and then we want to try to convert our rush so we can work, all 4 of us can work both sides of the guy we're rushing against. Now, not to be confused with telling kids not to win. We're not. We're telling these guys, go win, get the win quick. But what we would do under no circumstances want a guy to try to win late. And, I'm not going to make the example just because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I saw one this year where somebody's season ended really late because of a guy basically we have the quarterback in the pocket. He's done. It's over. We're going to get the ball back. And a guy tries to spin back inside and win late. And the guy just steps right up to where he vacated and scrambles like 13 yards for a first down or something. Game over. And we try to basically tell our guys, hey, listen, this kid can hurt us with his feet. Everybody's going to rush hard. Everybody's going to try to win, and we are going to convert everything late. There will be no late winning against this guy. Those are the two main things I would say. I would say that we concentrate on here. I know back in the day, there used to be, the flush call. We all familiar with the flush call, where you're trying to flush the guy out of the pocket into a certain spot where you can hunt him. And the more athletic quarterbacks have got, we just kind of come up with like, okay, hold on now. Is our answer really to flush out their best athlete into open field tackle? And we kind of came up with, no, we don't. We want to get away from that mentality and go more towards something like this.
So how do you guys
that
answers
answer
your landmarks? Coach, how do you guys rep your landmarks between your tackles and your ends in practice?
This is one of the most that's a hell of a question, and this is one of my most embarrassing moments right now. Okay, so when we started doing this, I almost felt like I pray to God nobody sees me do this, because I'll think I'm not a good coach, that I don't belong out here. We'll literally put an offensive lineman, which it's really me or Coach Bapp, in a stance like an offensive lineman. They'll line up, and we'll put a cone 4 yards right behind our outside foot, and we'll just move just to get the process started. And what we do is we have them sprint straight over the cone. No moves, no nothing, sprint. And I know you're like, okay, coach, so your big coaching point is line up and sprint over a cone. Well, that's a hell of a job coaching. Well, we're just trying to train that mentality of like not putting air in a rush, not widening. We're trying to get them really firing at a landmark. So that's how we started. Now, the next progression off of that is, once we got them doing that for a couple days and we really feel like they're really rushing it, the landmark, now we put a coach right on top of the cone. And we got the arm shields on, or we don't. And we got the guy rushing as hard as he can. And then we either step inside, he throws his home run. We step outside, he throws his counter. We don't ever sit in the middle of it so that we can receive power. I don't want to get put on tape, get thrown on the back of my head over here. But we basically give them the read component after we've worked that. And then the 2 yard landmark, we'll come back and eventually we'll just put a guy at the 2 yards. We'll have him work that 2 yard landmark. We'll lock up. Okay, when we lock up, we'll have him work the home run move, and then we'll come back and we'll continue to set. We won't lock up. Okay, just so he has to work the component of, hey, I went for the 2 yard landmark. It didn't really work. I don't want to get trapped inside. So probably the most simple thing that we do that my nieces could probably coach is the way we approach landmark rush at practice. It's a great question. I'll tell you this, I was always embarrassed. And Coach Nielsen, one of the best defensive line coaches in the world, in the NFL, came into USC, and I never knew anybody else worked the drill like this. And he showed us working the drill exactly like that, and made me feel like I was, verified for doing what I've been doing. Great question. Anybody with anything else? Okay. Well, listen, I appreciate your guys' time. I know it's hard to sit there and listen to a chubby redhead for 45 minutes or whatever I've been doing. I appreciate your time. And more importantly, I appreciate what you guys do for the game and do for young football players. Thanks for having me.
Coach, thanks for doing it again this year, because it's a ton of information. We appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
If you guys need me, reach out, okay?
All right. Thanks, Coach. You have a good weekend. Take care.
You too.